I want to talk about the difference between perfection and doing things better and what happens in the brain. I think you will find it so interesting and why we want to strive to do better versus trying to strive to be perfect. So as we look at what happens in the brain when you try to be perfect, here's what happens. It increases an area of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the area of the brain that looks for more errors. Interestingly enough, when you try to be perfect with something, this can create you negating or seeing positives and having more extreme thinking. It affects us with having more error processing. It affects us with having more self-criticism and even cognitive distortions, not being able to tell the difference in whether something's good enough. Isn't that interesting? This can also affect things like creating more anxiety and depression in the brain of somebody who thinks they need to have things perfect. It increases the chances of having poor self-esteem and even eating disorders, relationship problems, and life-work balancing problems. So when you're thinking about the word perfect and you're thinking about what happens for you, do you beat yourself up if something isn't completely right the first time? I remember as a kid, my grandbrother used to get on to us in ways where he would say something like, if you were not going to try and do it right, then just don't try. Which created a really catch-22, right? Because the truth is, he wanted you to try. He just wanted you to try better. Now, I don't look at my grandfather as a bad person. I look at my grandfather today as he had bad programming. Somebody programmed that in him, trying to tell him that he didn't do it enough right. And so in that, he created telling us those same kinds of things. But it's really important for you to pay attention to your word language. Do you get mad at yourself? Do you get mad at others? They don't do it right the first time or multiple times? Is it hard for you to have grace for yourself and others? Do you get stuck in a loop? Pay attention to these things and notice it with curiosity and love, not with beating yourself up, but with curiosity and love. One of my favorite sayings is, don't be the same, be better. And saying that in a way where we remind ourselves that the goal is to do better, not to be a perfect, but to do better. And my absolute favorite saying is, practice makes permanence. Practice makes permanence. Practice makes permanence. Everything in here is a programming. Everything in here is a programming. You either learned programs that are healthy and helpful for you in all the different areas of life, or you've learned some things that are not healthy and helpful for you. If you're gentle with yourself in these things, observing those in ways where, what can I do to make those things better, it actually ignites a different area in the brain. It's so exciting because when that happens, you ignite the neocortex area of the brain, which is decision-making part of the brain. And it also releases dopamine in the brain, which is so interesting, which helps you to form new connections, positive connections to other existing areas of the brain so that you can actually get better. It also increases the myelin sheath, that fatty tissue in the brain that helps with the electrocircuitry of the brain. Isn't that cool? I love the way that we can learn what makes things easier and better for learning for ourselves and for others. So as you think about these things, know that what you really want to do is learn to do better with something. It's important to recognize when we make a mistake, we don't get something right, but it's not important to beat yourself up. It's not important and it's not healthy to tell ourselves we need to be perfect with something. So again, practice makes permanence. Practice makes permanence. When you tune in and tell yourself, I want to do better, it also helps with us with our productive struggles. It gives a way for us to have better optimal learning when challenges happen. It becomes a feedback that is more positive than critical. And the more we do these things, the better we get. So giving yourself permission to ask yourself, how could I do better with this? Igniting those decision making. When we ask ourselves a question like that, the brain is like a computer program. It goes to work. Here's how you could be better with it. It ignites it in a positive way instead of a negative way. So give yourself permission to try this tool. See what happens for you. Don't try to be perfect. Try to be better. Perfect is unattainable. We're all going to make mistakes. Masters, it's consistency. Doing things over and over and over and over again until that becomes permanent. Practice makes permanence. That's how you become a master in your life and helping guide others. Be blessed and be a blessing.